Hi everyone. So the internet's been all afire with this new Linux tech tip video about his friend Luke's change to running Linux from being Windows users. And Linus himself ran into a very significant problem with one of the distributions that I recommend that all users should use. So I was a little bit taken aback by this because I feel really bad about recommending what in my opinion, is an excellent distribution in PopOS to everyone new to Linux when there is such a severe problem with it. So I wanted to find out what was going on here and how this can be avoided. And this problem all boils down to something one of my teachers in college called a breath of the master problem. And if you hang on till the end of the video, I'll go into the story of the breath of the master. But for right now, let's see if we can reproduce Linus's problem with PopOS and kind of see what was going on with it. So first of all, we need to get PopOS. So to get PopOS, we go to their PopOSsystem76.com website and we click on download. But we also know that this problem is fixed in their latest ISOs. So the thing is, we need to get an older ISO in order to reproduce this problem. Now, the ISO that Linus must have been using must be very old because I have an ISO sitting around on my computer for PopOS, the version 6 version of PopOS, and I've downloaded that in early July. So I'm kind of wondering, one of the first things I'm wondering is how did he run into this problem, knowing that they started their switch to Linux video series in early October. So I'm a little bit confused about how he got such an old ISO, but we can go ahead and get an old ISO as well. And the way we do that is we will right click on the download, one of the two downloads. Now he used NVIDIA, so I'm going to use NVIDIA for this as well. So we're going to right click on that and we're going to copy link. We're then going to paste this into our URL bar, but instead of pressing enter here, we're going to change these two 10s right here and right here to get an older version of PopOS's ISO. And we will then start downloading the ISO. Now, I've already done this. I've already downloaded a few minutes ago this ISO. So let's start running and using this. Let's install this ISO and get us to that initial state that Linus was at when he had this problem. So I'm going to start installing PopOS here, and I'm going to fast forward here because no one wants to see me configuring the OS, but I don't want to hide anything from you, so I'm not going to just black out the screen and come back when it's all done. I'm just going to fast forward. So let's get started here. All right, so now we're in PopOS, and the first thing that we want to do is we want to start gaming, so let's install Steam. So we open up the Pop Shop. We see Steam is right here, so we click on that. And then we click on Install. And immediately we get the first error that Linus ran into. So I'm sorry I can't view this, I can't zoom this in, but we will see a better error message of this in a second. So I'm going to close this, and then if I'm pretending I'm Linus here, I'm going to get frustrated and I just want Steam right now. And I want to start playing a game. So I've read on the internet that you install things via the command line on Linux. So let's install this via the command line. So first of all, we get this warning phrase here, but there is a big wall of text here that if I'm a new Linux user, I'm not paying attention to. But if you can see, The following essential packages will be removed. PopOS desktop. So there is no shame on Linux here for not wanting to read all this crap. He just wants to start playing his games, and he knows that, oh, I'm just installing Steam, nothing should go wrong here, it's just an app. Why would anything really go wrong if I install Steam? So he types, yes, do as I say. And we have the problem. So, we've been able to reproduce the problem with an old version of SteamOS. And I might be a little bit locked out because I said take control of my desktop, please. So what I need to do here is I need to kill my QEMU system. All right. So how should he have avoided this? Well, the first thing that he could have done is on October, he should have been able to get a PopOS ISO that doesn't have this problem. So for example, my version of PopOS that I downloaded in July does not have this problem. And the newest version of PopOS that is available to any of you does not have this problem. But what we've got here, what the problem is that the package Steam was configured incorrectly by the package maintainers. It was caught early and it was fixed, but for some reason, the version of the ISO that Linus was using did not have the fix in it. So again, I'm not sure how he got that ISO. He shouldn't have been given that ISO, but the person that gave him that ISO had the breath of the master already in their brain. And the breath of the master that I'm talking about is for us normal Linux users, when we first set up a distribution, a new distribution, we always upgrade and update the operating system before we do anything else. That's the first thing that we've kind of internalized, and this updating pattern isn't often communicated to new users. So new users might not even know what how to update. I'm not so when I install Windows systems, which I haven't done in a very long time, but when I do, the first thing I do is I go into that start menu thing and I type update and I find Windows Update and I click that, and then of course because it's Windows it takes 7 years to install, but I say update and then I leave and I come back when it's done. I do the same with Linux. I update my packages first. So let's run the same test, but let's update our packages before we do anything else, and demonstrate what the breath of the master is, so that other people, if they are viewing this video, understand that this is the first step you take no matter what when you install a Linux system. So I am again going to get myself back into that initial stage that Linus was at, and then do the updating path, and then we'll see if we can install Steam. So I'm going to fast forward again so that you can see what I'm doing, but yeah, let me do this again, and we can see how to fix this issue, and make it important that we need to communicate this upgrade path, the first thing that you do, no matter what operating system you install. All right, so we're back at the first initial install phase. We've just completed the install. So the next step is always to update. How do we update? Well, hopefully the Pop Shop will do that for us. So we want to go into there to the Pop Shop. Now, what happens if we type update? So that's not right. But as you see up here at the top, it came up with a little pop-up saying updates available. So let's click on that. See what happens. Nothing seems to have happened. So is there something we can do here? That doesn't look like it. If we click on this installed, we've got a little notification circle. What happens here? All right. So there's not 12, there's 328 plus a whole bunch of other stuff. But we're just going to say update all, please. Oh, that's not good. That's very bad. Okay, so now if we are a new user, we're in trouble. We don't know what to do because the update isn't working for us. So we're kind of SOL at the moment. Like this installation of PopOS obviously has bugs, and as a new user, I should not be expected to be able to fix this. But can we fix this because we know some stuff about Linux that a new user might not know? Now, there is absolutely no reason why a new user would know to do what I just did unless they've got help. They've got a master teaching them, hey, this is how you do these certain basic tasks on Linux. I believe that this whole process is fixed on PopOS. But honestly, I don't know. We can try that out later. Actually, I'm just gonna try that out off video to see if it's fixed or not. But yeah, we're updating. And it's gonna take quite a long time, even on my machine, which has a pretty good internet connection. So I'm gonna fast forward this again, and you'll see this go fast, while for me it will go slow. All right, we're all done here. Now we see that a restart is required. So how do we do a restart? Do I click on this button here? Does that do a restart for me? Again, no. So let's click around and we see power off, log out, and restart. So we're now going to restart our PopOS. And now that we've got everything all up to date, we are going to install Steam. So we click on the Pop Shop, click on Steam, and click on install. And we should now have Steam available to be running for us. And we have Steam, and we can start playing our games. So the problem here is again twofold. First of all, there was obviously bugs in PopOS here, bugs in the packaging of SteamOS, and as we saw, there was bugs in just the basic update availability in the Pop Shop. These are technical issues that should have been addressed by the Pop developers. But there is also this problem of the breadth of the master. Now I keep saying this term, but I haven't defined what it is. And it's actually a story which was told to me by one of my professors in college. The idea is this, and I hope I can give it the proper telling, like my professor did, but I'm not as great a storyteller as my professors were. So back in ancient times, there was a potter and there was an apprentice. And the apprentice came to the potter and said, "Could you teach me how to make pottery?" And the master potter said, "Of course, I will teach you. You will learn, and you will be able to carry on my traditions to the next stage long after I am gone. And someday you will teach the next generations of potters after you." So he brought him into the shop, and the master potter has had his shop for a very long time. He's a master. So the whole place is a little bit dusty, and there's things have their place, but those places aren't necessarily labeled correctly, if you know what I mean. It's a little bit of a mess, but there's madness, there's method in the madness. So the potter starts to teach him how to form the clay and to put it in the kiln. So the potter puts stuff in the shapes up the clay and puts it in the kiln. And a few hours later, he gets his tongs, and he takes the piece of pottery out, and he blows a place to put this down, and makes sure that there's no dust on the piece of clay when he puts the newly shaped piece of pottery down to let it cool. And he says, "Okay, I've taught you how to do this pottery now. Why don't you try to do the pottery?" The apprentice starts learning from the master, and a few years go by. And after these few years go by, the apprentice has now become a journeyman. He now makes really good pottery, even though he still has his master watching over him. And it's time for the journeyman to venture out on his own and start his own business across town in a brand new workshop. It's all clean, pristine. There are no tools just laying about. There's no dust, no nothing. It's a perfectly pristine new workspace. And the new journeyman potter starts about his process and starts doing exactly what the master told him. But whenever he's about to sell his pottery is brittle and it breaks really easy. And all his customers, when they buy the pottery from him, they say, "Oh, this pottery is no good. The master across town makes good, reliable pottery that doesn't break. Your pottery always breaks. What are you? This is no good. We're going back to the master." So the journeyman feels very badly. So he journeys back to his master and he says, "Master, there is something that I'm doing wrong here. Could you please help me? For some reason, my pottery it's brittle and it's not durable, and my customers are complaining to me. Can you please come to my workspace and show me what I am doing wrong?" And the master says, "Well, of course I'll help you. I need to make sure that the legacy of my pottery and my master's techniques and his master's techniques are passed on to the next generation." So they go to the journeyman's workspace, and the journeyman shows him exactly what he's doing. And the journeyman forms the clay correctly, and he puts it into the kiln, and he takes his when a few hours later, when the pottery's all done, he takes his tongs and he takes the piece of clay down, and he puts it on the place where it's supposed to cool. And the master says to him, "You didn't breathe on it." And the journeyman thinks like, "Well, of course I didn't breathe on it. There's no dust. My place is pristine." And the master says to him, "No, you must start the cooling down process yourself. Please blow on the piece of pottery." So the journeyman blows on the pottery, and the master says, "Now you know everything that I know." And he goes back to his workspace. And from then on, the journeyman, now that he knows the breath of the master, is a master himself. So why am I relating this story to the story of what's going on with PopOS and with Linus's journey into it, or with any new user's journey into Linux? Well, the breadth of the master's story is supposed to demonstrate that there are things that we as masters or masters of Linux know that we don't, that are so built into how we do Linux that we don't even think to mention that these things need to be done to new users. For example, the updating process. When you install an operating system, you always update and reboot the first thing. That's the first thing that you do. You make sure that you are up to date and rebooted, and then, only then, are you ready to proceed with configuring and start using the system. You must update and you must upgrade, you must update, and you must reboot upon installation. But nowhere is this ever discussed. Nowhere do we ever say, oh yeah, you need to make sure that we do say, make sure that you're always upgraded for security purposes, but never do we say, hey, make sure that you're upgraded and updated just so that the system works properly, because there are bugs and the upgrade process solves bugs. We don't communicate that because it's so built in to our way of being that new users don't know it. And how are they supposed to know? We don't tell them. So yeah, I just wanted to demonstrate how this problem came to be, the reasons why I think it came to be, both technical problems and of course knowledge sharing problems, or I guess the best way I can communicate it is the breadth of the master problem. So yeah, I hope you have learned something about Linux, and I hope you have a good day or a good evening or a good afternoon.